Hello, everyone. My name is Manny, and I am here with ESTNN, joined by the general manager of 100 Thieves, Papasmithy, following the defeat against Cloud9 this weekend. Papasmithy, obviously, following a defeat is never easy, but how's the team taking this? Obviously, you guys have a lower bracket still to go to. What is the feeling around the camp?
I mean, the easy answer obviously is everyone is really disappointed. Um, it's very raw still. The actual game ended maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. And a 3-0 loss against a team that we're making every decision to compete with is obviously very condemning. It's definitely the worst possible result. So from that, there's a lot of questions. And some of the answers are easy to work out in the short term, and some of the answers are obviously bigger questions that take longer to reflect on. So it's rough. It's raw. It's definitely the worst part of the job is seeing all the people that I have so much confidence in, who I've seen so much from hurting. Um, it's really fucking rough. But at the end of the day, the process for our next best of five starts here. And we all know what decisions have been made, and we've already had to make hard decisions this split. All decisions are made to win best of fives and go to Iceland. That's what we compete for. Only top one is acceptable. So for that, there's a lot of work to be done, clearly. So all we can do is get back to work as soon as possible.
Of course, and that makes sense. Thankfully, you do have kind of a week to prepare against your opponent's Dignitas. Um, kind of going back to the beginning of the split, 100 Thieves came in as, wow, everyone was saying this is a championship caliber team. Obviously, metas have changed. Obviously, even the rosters changed with Ryoma coming in. Do you guys feel like it is maybe a meta read, or maybe it's just the rest of the league leveling up that caused some of the slip-ups, some of the recent slip-ups in the 100 Thieves team?
I guess I don't really see recent slip-ups necessarily. Like, I guess I don't really perceive it that way. I think we came in hot with a meta that was strong for us and players with synergy, and I think the results were clear, and there was a lot to like about that. But any good team goes through multiple metas if they're going to lift the trophy, right? Like, that's the reality from it. And I don't think any one thing is like an excuse, like this. I don't think it's like, oh, it went against us kind of thing. I think on every side, definitely the stage games at the start of the season when we were winning but not really winning convincingly were symptoms of us trying to work out what our best selves look like, after patches come through, and also forecasting to best of fives. I think we had the benefit of a hot start that allowed us to start working out how to deal with future problems we perceived, which was kind of best of five performance and wanting to be the number one. I think we were in a position where we were comfortably able to beat teams below us, especially as the season went on, and our head-to-heads against the bottom teams definitely show that. Yeah. But the poor head-to-head against the top teams is more of an important factor for us, because it's not enough to be a strong fourth, or like, hooray, we made playoffs. Like, I don't think that should be the kind of floor for a team like this that does have a lot of individual power. I think so much focus was on kind of the Golden Guardians core, but I just think that pound for pound, we have really, really strong players, and getting that to all come together in best of five wins over Team Liquid, TSM, and C9, I think that's the only way where we look back at the split and say, okay, it went to expectation. Right. So given that, it's been a lot of shifting goalposts, but there needs to be, like, we need to be able to target wins there. And while that introduced short-term volatility and obviously a short-term reset with Ryoma coming in, towards the end there, I think if we're making decisions to make sure we win best of ones in regular season, then we're doing our whole setup here and all the great people on the Rift and off the Rift a disservice. But at the end of the day, a result like this shows that we haven't gotten to where we want to get to yet. And so the bar raises again, and we try to work out how to get there.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. Yesterday, speaking to Bjergsen, he kind of had similar sentiments. Obviously, TSM is one of the teams you mentioned, one of the top 3 teams ahead of you guys. But you also mentioned the Golden Guardians core, right? Coming in, a lot of people were making even jokes of the Golden Thieves, obviously bringing 4 parts of the Golden Guardians into the team, plus someday. Today we saw Ryoma come in, and he really has kind of proven himself to the eyes of the fans, maybe to the eyes of the community. Obviously, as a GM, whenever you decide to make a position change with the coaching staff, it never is easy. Do you think maybe the fans come across as too harsh at times? Do you think it's kind of warranted, or is it really difficult to understand what's going on when you're outside of the walls, the compound?
Look, honestly, as a person, I'm really not big on telling people how to feel or how to react. I was a school counselor before I was involved in esports, and I was a caster, so I know what it's like to use available information, make a pretty reasonable take on it. Sure, sometimes it's more rude or more negative, but all they can see is stage games,
right?
And we're in a kind of culture, at least around League of Legends. It's visible stats that everyone knows, like kills, deaths, assists, KDAs, wins, losses, and then stage games, and then from there that doesn't make sense with what I can see. Right. And I guess the hardest thing as a GM is going to those people, and I would go to those people and say, I hear you. Like, I see what you're saying, and I agree that based on the information you have, this is a tricky decision to understand. But on the same, on the flip side, we have so many people behind the scenes and so much information the fans don't have. Right. And so while fans will understand that and be like, oh, I guess it must be scrims, I guess it must be this, or they'll make some crazy assumptions, and it's like, okay, well, you're just being silly. Then, unfortunately, all we can do at the end of that is kind of go our separate ways and win. And so when we don't win, I think it's again fair for people to come and say, well, you said you had the info, why didn't it bear out? And that's the tricky part, is even knowing everything and working on it honestly, full-heartedly for many, many hours doesn't automatically mean that it leads in a win, right?
Right.
But all I can do as a GM is look at who we have, what we have, our process for making our decisions, and then grade the process. Because the process and the results obviously are intrinsically linked, right? But a good process doesn't always lead to good results. And that's the part where the fans have to take a leap of faith. And if they look at the outside and don't have the faith there, who am I to say, no, trust me, right? Like, I have to prove myself every day, just like everybody does here. Right. So I fully understand the frustration. And I hate the fact that we weren't able to put out results today, but the process will continue to be, checked in on, obviously actively, and then at the end of the season, whenever that may be. And all I can do right now is use available information, continue to make the sort of decisions that after the fact I can look at myself in the mirror and say, this was a good decision, regardless of whether it works or not, and continue to reapply that, because that is the main role in my position. And if I'm just making crowd pleasing decisions, or easy decisions, or let's just keep it because it worked, then anybody can do that, I got to make the tough decisions, and I also have to be held accountable for when the tough decisions don't work.
Of course, and that definitely makes sense. And I think, being in this position is sometimes even harder for someone like you, potentially, that has been kind of like front facing, right? You mentioned you were a caster, and the fans know you. The fans have built this level of trust when you were over in the LCK. So I feel like sometimes maybe fans might expect even more out of you, even though the GM role, of course.
It's not inherently a bad thing, and I always want to give more. As a caster or as a GM, I'm always trying to work out, is there another angle where I can do more? Like, this is my life. This is all I have. I give everything,
of course,
for this job, and try to always find an angle to support or improve and things like that. But hard work doesn't necessarily always mean what matters the most, which is the wins and loss.
Of
at
course.
the end of the piece, and I get benefits from being a forward facing person, right? Like
Yeah.
when people talk about things, like I'll be given a lot of benefit of the doubt and trust that maybe other orgs wouldn't. And at the end of the day, the flip side of that is when it falls down harder. It's an easy target, and people can make assumptions, or people can. I think as a GM who came in saying he wanted to, be a part of everything, I think it's fair for a fan to, if they see anything they don't like about 100 Thieves, assume it was completely a Papasmithy decision to a fault, right? Like,
Yeah.
obviously, there's always going to be a lot of meetings, a lot of chats. Like, there's always so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
But again, it's, I think, fair for fans to just put it all on my plate. And even though in no case is it always the Papasmithy decision, and sometimes a decision comes across as, Papasmithy was a big part of it when maybe I was just a facilitator in it. Like, given all of those sort of things, all I can do reasonably, again, based on available information,
Yeah.
is eat the whole pile. Like, I just have to accept all of the negativity and flame and say, yes, I did have a role in this. I always will have a role in it. And it's not fair for me or the process or the people working on it to like try to distance, or like, oh, that was 20% me, or not, like you might think. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't be like that. In my role, all I can do is accept the fact that it's going to be put in front of me first, and I just have to work out where to go from there.
Of course. Thank you so much for the insight, obviously, as always. Um, the team does still have, again, the lower bracket chances. You are against Dignitas, who, if I am not mistaken, you hold a 2-0 head to head in the regular season. Is this team still confident, obviously, that you guys can maybe start working on the things that failed today, start working through them in the lower bracket, and potentially make a finals appearance?
For sure. I mean, Dignitas is a team we have a 2-0 head-to-head in, and we know their players very well. Obviously, it's been nice to cheer on the sidelines for the 100T's Academy guys, and
Yeah.
of course, Aftermoo as well, performing really well on the team. So now they're going to be our rivals, and we're going to definitely put all our preparation into beating them. But I think our goal remains taking best of fives off the best teams in North America. And at the end of the day, we still have a lot of work to do to get there. So that's our next focus, and that's what all eyes are on.
Of course. Any last words for any 100 Thieves fans that might be watching this?
I think a lot of our fans feel like they don't have enough information to know how to feel. And I really empathize with them. And if there was a way to be fully transparent, but also fully respectful of everybody's role in the process and everybody's emotions, there was a way to, have your cake, eat it too, write a Yelp review of it, and mail it off a Grubhub order.
Yes, Grubhub.
Then we would. And I'm sorry that you have to take leaps, and I'm sorry that you have to feel guarded and not know how to feel. We're trying to find ways to be better about that, and we're trying to be a better team that you can be proud of at all points. So for anyone who feels like they can support the boys and staff and everybody involved for our match against Dignitas, who still feels confident and trusts enough, I'm sure they'd appreciate that. There's going to be a lot of people out there making hasty comments about us. And for those that can't, who really feel like, this was a stroll too far, or they no longer trust, all we can do is continue to work hard to be the sort of team that makes you second guess that first thought, or makes you want to come back in. So that's what our work goes into. So I'm sorry I don't have more. It's hard to tweet after wins and losses equally, I'll tell you that much, because
Of course.
there's only so much to say, and there's no excuses for today.
All right. Thank you so much, Papasmithy. Best of luck to you and the rest of the team throughout playoffs. That is all for now. Make sure to keep tuned to ESTNN for more coverage of the LCS. All right, Papasmithy, thank you so much for your time. And again, yeah, best of luck for playoffs.
Pleasure.
All right, bye.